The opening scene features a high school teenager, Andrew Detmer. He lives in Seattle with his alcoholic father Richard, aka Dick, and his bedridden mother Karen, who is battling with cancer. Andrew is an outcast who often gets bullied by other students at school. His only friend is his cousin, Matt Garrity. Tired of his father's abusive behavior, Andrew buys a camera and decides to record everything. From this point onwards, he takes the camera to school where he shows the places where he eats and hangs out. The camera also records how he gets ridiculed by bullies. After school, Andrew returns home with Matt, who invites him to a party so that he can mingle with other people. Andrew is hesitant at first, but he reluctantly agrees when his friend insists upon coming back home. He starts looking through his recording. When his father barges into the room and beats him up, he tosses him to the floor, warning him to be obedient. Later that night, Andrew accompanies Matt to the party, but the latter abandons him, telling him to enjoy on his own. Feeling alone, Andrew takes out his camera and begins recording random people. He soon spots a vlogger, Casey. Andrew is also recording the party. They strike up a conversation, but Matt interrupts them and takes the girl away. Andrew then continues filming, but he unintentionally angers a guy who accuses him of recording his girlfriend. After this altercation, he leaves the party and sits down in the parking lot, sobbing for such a depressed life. Shortly after, he is approached by the school's popular student Steve, who asks Andrew to join him and Matt in order to record something strange they found in the woods nearby. Following this, Andrew accompanies them to the woods where he sees a large hole that emits a loud and strange noise from within. Steve and Matt dive in to explore the hole, prompting Andrew to follow suit despite his nervousness. After venturing into its depth, they come across a cavern containing a massive, glowing, crystalline object. As Andrew films, the object turns red, and the group is stricken by nosebleeds and pain before the camera shorts out. The scene then fast-forwards to several weeks later, and Andrew, Matt, and Steve are seen playing baseball in a backyard. When Matt throws the ball at Steve, it swerves right and hits one of his friends. Then Andrew shockingly stops the ball mid-air with his mind. Here, we learn that the trio have developed telekinetic abilities after the earlier hole incident, though they suffer nosebleeds when they overexert themselves. Later that day, they decide to revisit the hole, but the area is now closed off by the police, who assert that the land is unstable. From that point onwards, the three friends begin experimenting on their newfound powers. They play with Lego pieces without touching them and carry out several pranks at school. As their power continues to grow, Matt theorizes that their abilities function like a muscle that becomes stronger with use. Andrew then suggests that they head somewhere public to practice their skills, and they end up at a grocery store. There, they each begin messing with people. Andrew makes a grocery cart roll away. Steve scares a child by levitating a stuffed animal, and Matt tries to get a piece of gum out of a person's mouth, ending up whacking his head. While eating at a restaurant, Andrew stabs Matt with a fork to show how their powers can even protect them from sharp objects and projectiles. Later, at a parking lot, Steve plays a prank on a random woman by moving her parked car to a different spot. Andrew and Matt are impressed, noting that this is probably the heaviest any of them have ever lifted. Just then, Steve's nose starts bleeding, but he assures them that he's fine. Master Roshi would be proud. After having fun for the entire day, the trio are driving back home when a car behind them persistently honks in an attempt to punish the rude driver. Andrew telekinetically swerves the vehicle just a little, but he ends up putting too much force on it. As a result, the car veers off the road and plunges into a pond. Seeing this, the boys rush to help, and Steve somehow manages to save the driver from drowning. They then report the accident to the police, who take control over the situation. In the aftermath of this event, Matt vents his anger on Andrew, berating him for his recklessness. Since their powers are getting stronger and harder to control, he insists that they establish some rules and restrict the use of their powers, particularly against living beings. One day, Andrew and Matt go to meet Steve at a landfill where they're astounded to witness him flying above them. Matt also attempts to do the same, but fails. Following this, Andrew walks forward to try, and he manages to levitate successfully, making him ecstatic. After a while of practice, the three boys are seen flying around the city, soaring through the clouds, and even engaging in aerial football. However, their joyful moments is cut short when an airplane passes through, nearly colliding with them. This causes Steve to lose control and plummet. Sensing the urgency of the situation, Andrew flies towards him and saves him before he hits the ground. Steve thanks him for saving his life, and the trio rejoice in their newfound ability, believing that they are the first humans to fly. The following day at school, the three friends plan to fly around the world together after graduation, with Andrew expressing an interest in visiting Tibet because of its peaceful nature. Later on, Matt goes to meet Casey to hand her a donation. He says that it's for the drought she mentioned in one of her vlogs. He also tells her that he isn't like before and that he now wants to serve the people in the world. In addition, he tries to ask her out, but she closes the door on him. "All right, that's it. I'm going to be evil," he says. Meanwhile, Andrew and Steve are sitting on top of a roof, enjoying the city view. As they converse, Andrew expresses how he used to be lonely before he got this power. He didn't even hang out with Matt that much, even though they are cousins. After hearing his sad story, Steve urges him to participate in the upcoming school talent show, assuring that he'll help him throughout the process. The scene then cuts to the talent show where Andrew, with the help of Steve, uses his powers to perform a magic act. He manages to amaze his fellow students by displaying a series of impressive tricks, juggling and tightrope walking. The duo then puts on a great show, earning them loud cheers from the audience. Later that night, Steve and Matt take Andrew to a house party where he is greeted by everyone. This is the first time he is noticed and appreciated by his friends. In the midst of their enjoyment, Andrew is approached by a pink-haired girl, Monica, and the two get along very quickly. They soon head to a room upstairs in order to make out. Andrew is going to make his penis levitate. However, things take a different turn when a drunk Andrew throws up on the girl, prompting her to storm out in disgust. Meanwhile, Matt is holding Andrew's camera and filming the party. When he's approached by Casey, she invites him to her place, and he immediately agrees. After a while, Steve goes to the room upstairs and finds Andrew half naked. He tries to lighten up his mood, but unintentionally ends up offending him. The next day, Andrew plays with a spider before making it levitate and tearing it apart. He's jealous that Matt got to try penis levitation, and he did not. Just then, he hears his mother crying in pain, prompting him to rush to her aid. In the interim, his father looks around his room M and discovers his expensive camera. Richard then confronts him, berating him for spending too much money on a camera while having barely any for his mother's medication. He starts beating his son as usual, but this time Andrew uses his powers to violently repel him and flee the house. Andrew flies up in the sky in the middle of a lightning storm and starts crying. In the meantime, Matt is enjoying some romantic time with Casey when his nose starts bleeding. He is perplexed and wonders why it's happening. Even if he isn't using his powers, Master Roshi would be real proud. Simultaneously, Steve also experiences the nose bleeding, but in addition to this, he hears a crying voice of Andrew. He then follows the sound and locates his friend. Steve tries to persuade him to descend, citing that it's not safe to stay up there during a thunderstorm. However, Andrew doesn't listen to him and instead demands to be alone. When Steve insists, Andrew becomes so angry that a powerful lightning bolt strikes his friend, killing him instantly. In the next scene, the entire school attends Steve's funeral, and they are grief-stricken. Matt then confronts Andrew, questioning him about what happened last night. However, Andrew claims he knows nothing and flies off. Later on, he returns and privately begs forgiveness at Steve's grave. The following day, Andrew goes to school, but he is once again bullied after what happened at the earlier house party. However, he is not the same guy as before to tolerate all of this. He telekinetically rips teeth from one of the bullies' mouths, scaring his other peers. "There's molar where that came from," he threatens. Later, at a junkyard, Andrew talks to his camera, speaking about the evolution and the concept of apex predators. According to him, the predators don't feel guilty when they kill their prey, so he also shouldn't feel bad when his power hurts other people. That evening, Matt shows up in Andrew's room and confronts him for what he did to a bully. He yells at him for breaching the rules, but Andrew doesn't want to follow the rules anymore. As their argument escalates, Matt tries to punch him, but the latter stops him with his power. This makes him feel helpless, prompting him to fly off. Later, Andrew heads to a pharmacy to buy his mother's medication, but finds out that it costs a lot of money. He then spends a few days thinking of ways to earn necessary funds. One morning, Andrew becomes so desperate that he resorts to robbing people. For this, he dons his father's firefighter gear and hides his identity with a mask. Initially targeting a local gang that has harassed him, Andrew violently incapacitates him and steals their money. However, the funds still fall short for the medicine, so he barges into a gas station convenience store, subdues the cashier, and takes all the cash. As he makes his way out, the cashier chases him with a shotgun, but Andrew swipes his gun away, inadvertently firing on a gas tank and resulting in a huge explosion. After the incident, Andrew is admitted to the hospital, and he is now under police custody. Sometime later, Richard arrives at the hospital and enters his son's room. He starts crying while informing an unconscious Andrew that his mother died, spending several days searching for him. He blames Andrew for allegedly causing his mother's death and shouts at him. When Richard starts getting aggressive, Andrew wakes up and violently blows out the wall of the room, injuring his father. Meanwhile, Matt is at a birthday party when his nose starts bleeding, making him realize that something is wrong with Andrew. Moreover, he also sees news on TV about a mysterious explosion in the downtown hospital. Following this, Matt rushes towards the hospital with Casey in tow. Upon arriving there, they witness a shocking sight. Andrew is holding his father mid-air and is about to drop him. Sensing the urgency of the situation, Matt flies up and rescues Dick before he can hit the ground, shocking the onlookers. Matt then goes to stop his friend, who is wreaking havoc with his powers. He approaches Andrew mid-air and tries to calm him down. However, the latter believes that it's his chance to enact vengeance for always being treated terribly. When Matt tries to reason with him, Andrew grows increasingly hostile and throws a bus at him. This initiates a violent altercation between the two friends. They fight across the city by crashing through buildings, houses, as well as hurling vehicles. At one point, they land at a plaza in front of a building where the police surround them. They open fire towards the two friends, but Andrew is able to stop all the bullets. He is so enraged that he lets out a loud scream that causes building's glass to shatter. Matt pleads with him not to hurt the cops, but Andrew is too far gone. Realizing that his friend can't be stopped, Matt reluctantly grabs a spear from a nearby statue and impales him through the chest. Everything falls quiet for a moment, but when the police approach, Matt flies up and escapes. Sometime later, Matt is seen flying above snowy mountaintops, eventually landing in Tibet, the place Andrew always wanted to visit. He turns on Andrew's camera and apologizes for everything that happened earlier. He then vows to use his powers for good and to uncover what had happened to them in that hole. Following this, he positions the camera to view a Tibetan monastery in the distance, telling the late Andrew, "You made it." The movie ends as Matt flies off, leaving the camera behind to continue recording the tranquil scene until the battery dies anyway. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.